What do you need in order to backpack around the world for 30 days? And can you fit everything into one carry-on pack? Today I'm going over everything that I brought with me for 30 days of travel in Southeast Asia and sharing with you guys what worked, what didn't, and whether I think one bag travel is sufficient or whether you have to make some sacrifices and leave some things behind that would have been nice to have. We'll get into what pack I brought with me as well as everything that I put inside of here, including my clothing, toiletries, items that I brought in order to be comfortable on the trip. But before we do that, I want to go over some of the things that I brought with me in order to be comfortable on the plane. Because it was a very long plane ride from North America to Southeast Asia, and there's a few things that made that a little bit more bearable. First of all, this inflatable head neck support thing. So this deflates and gets really, really compact, and then it really easily inflates in order to then create a really nice kind of pillow neck support system. It has a little bit less material on the back here and then has these kind of side rails here that really keep your head centered. I like to fill it up probably about 30%, so you can kind of just deflate it a little bit, let some air out, and then in this way, it just kind of really allows me to lay back against the seat and be really comfortable. Combined with this, I also used an eye mask, so I just put this on in order to keep out any lights that may have been inside of the cabin while I was trying to sleep. And what's nice about this eye mask is that it has kind of a raised area around the outside, which keeps it kind of off your face a little bit more. So if you have long eyelashes like I do, then they're not going to be kind of rubbing the inside of the eye mask. The third thing was earplugs. Obviously planes are loud. You kind of get that white noise aspect with the engine, but you still might have babies crying, people laughing, talking, so earplugs were really essential, not only on the plane, but for the rest of the trip as well. I went on this trip with my wife, Steffi Poo. It was our honeymoon. We spent 10 days in Thailand and then 3 weeks in the Philippines. So because of that, we packed a lot of clothing for warm weather, for the beach, for basically around 30 degrees Celsius temperatures. We knew that we'd be moving locations quite often and kind of wheeling around airports, but then also going to some pretty remote villages and beach locations. Because of that, we wanted a pack that was going to be very versatile. And the Osprey Farpoint series is quite cool because not only is it a rolly bag, so the handle comes up here and you can roll it just kind of like a classic carry-on bag, but when you unzip the sides, you get two backpack straps that come out. And you can put the pack on like a backpack and then carry it over kind of cobblestone or sandy areas or just terrain where it's really hard to kind of wheel the pack. The backpack feature was also really nice in busy places like bus stations or train stations where there's just a lot of people and it's a little bit more difficult to wheel a pack around. The downsides with a pack like this is that it's quite a bit heavier, about twice as heavy as a classic backpack or classic rolly bag, but we really enjoyed the versatility of a pack like this while on our trip. Inside the pack, there's basically just one big compartment, which I really like because I don't like having to kind of guess where everything is. And in order to organize clothing and other items, I just use travel bags like this. I like these kind of D-shaped ones because they fit nicely into a pack and they have a nice wide opening, which makes it really easy to see inside of it compared to something like a stuff sack. I brought enough clothes for about 5 to 7 days of travel before I need to wash my clothes, and there's a lot of options in Southeast Asia where you can drop your clothes off, get them washed during the day, and then come pick them up in the evening. Really nice if you're going for a beach day or something like that. For my underwear, I used icebreaker merino wool underwear, so I had 5 pairs of these. Honestly, I probably could have only brought 3. I'd wear them all day in really hot conditions for a couple days in a row, and they just never stunk and they're always super comfortable, so really impressed with these. The one thing with merino wool is it does hold on to quite a bit of moisture, so if you are super sweaty, then that might lead to some swamp butt. For my socks, I use a material that I like better than merino wool, and if underwear came made with this material, then I probably would have brought it, but it's alpaca wool socks. Alpaca wool is similar to merino wool from a stink standpoint, but it doesn't hold on to quite as much moisture and it's a little bit more durable. These alpaca wool socks are from a company called Paca. I'll have links to the socks as well as all the gear I'm talking about today in the video description. And I've loved a lot of gear from Paca, and I think they're an awesome company if you're looking for different kinds of pieces of clothing for travel. Because we were traveling from Canada in the wintertime, we needed to dress a little bit warm as we were going to the airport. So I brought just this really kind of basic sweater from Old Navy, just a synthetic sweater. I wore this a few times when we were in Southeast Asia as well on some colder mornings, but it was mostly just sitting in my bag for when we came back to Canada. And that was the same for a pair of pants that I brought with me. These are the Outdoor Research Feroci pants. So they're just a lightweight pant made of nylon. They're actually very packable. So you can pack these into your pack and not really worry about them taking up a lot of space. They provide a little bit of warmth and are nice if you're going to a place where you are required to wear pants for either restaurants or things like temples. Most of the time I was wearing t-shirts and shorts though. For my t-shirts I was wearing Icebreaker Coolite shirts. These are a merino wool blend that perform really well in warm temperatures. They're really thin and light and don't really show sweat stains or anything like that. I really like these, and I could wear these for a few days in a row without them starting to stink. And then for my shorts, I wore the short version of the pants. These are the Outdoor Research Feroce shorts, just a nice lightweight, cool pair of pants, and I brought a couple pairs of these. I also brought a couple of bathing suits to wear because we were spending a lot of time at the beach. I didn't bring any towels or anything like that because a lot of the places we were staying supplied towels, but I did pick up kind of a sarong type thing in order to use as a beach blanket, as well as a towel if we did stay. I think there's a couple times we stayed at a hostel where we weren't supplied with towels. I was able to use that in order to kind of dry off after showering. In order to protect my head from the sun, I brought an Outdoor Research Swift bucket hat. I wore that quite often, but for the times where the bucket hat wasn't really sufficient, I brought this little it's called a pea cap. I don't know why pea cap, maybe because it packs up really small, but it basically is a folding cap with a snap there that you can undo and then just unfolds and you can wear it just like a baseball cap. I'd use this if we were motorbiking or going somewhere where I wasn't sure I needed a hat, but still wanted to just bring one with me in my little carry bag for day trips and things like that. An item that was super useful that we didn't actually use for its intended purpose was this scrub bag. The purpose of this is you put clothes inside of it, you put some soap, you put some water, and there's kind of a textured bottom part to it. You can rub your clothes on it and kind of gives them like a wash. But like I said, Southeast Asia had a lot of different options for getting your clothes washed, so we never actually used this. But what we did use it for was as a dry bag. Because it's designed to hold water in, it also holds water out. So when we went on different boat trips, we were going snorkeling, we put all the stuff that we wanted to stay dry and protected in here and then brought it with us. It also acted as a little flotation device, so we didn't have to use quite as much energy when we were swimming around. So it kind of dual purpose. It was useful. Dry bag, but then also if we did need to do laundry, we could have used this. When we were going on day trips, we mostly left our luggage in either the hostel or the hotel room. So in order to carry things that we needed for those trips, I had two different methods of doing so. First of all, for kind of smaller trips or just kind of booting around town, I had this shoulder bag from North Face. This thing was awesome because I was able to keep it up front and have my hand on it, or I could kind of put it behind me a little bit like a backpack. Really kind of nice. I liked it better than having a fanny pack because it was over my shoulder and I could take it off and on a little bit more easily. It fit a surprising amount of stuff in the pocket here, like my cell phone, passport, battery bank, some snacks. And then this front pouch here was the perfect size for my water bottle. So on this trip, I used a collapsible water bottle from Hydro Flask, I think it was. I wasn't sure about the water bottle, but because it was collapsible, I brought it with me just in case, and it ended up being super useful. I was in Southeast Asia 10 years ago and I had to buy mostly bottled water at the grocery store or corner stores. On this trip, almost all the hotels or hostels that we stayed at had big jugs of water that you could refill your water bottle at. So I was doing that quite often and saving quite a bit of money and also not creating as much plastic waste. But when I did then need to store that water bottle in my pack, I was able to collapse it down and it took up almost no space compared to something like an Nalgene. The other thing I had with me was just a small backpack stuff sack from Outdoor Research. So this just has very basic shoulder straps and is just basically just a big stuff sack that you can put stuff in like towels, some change of clothes or something like that, and then bring with you on day trips. We use this a handful of times, but most of the time we were using our small shoulder bags when we were going on day trips. We still have electronics, footwear, and hygiene. All of my hygiene stuff fit into this Matador flat pack bag. It rolled down to be really, really small and compact, which was nice, but then it was also big enough to hold all my stuff, including my toothbrush, which I was very proud of, this toothbrush, and everything that it was able to do because it's electric. So I was able to get a really good brush. I find that my teeth get a little bit icky. Sometimes I'll get gingivitis if I don't use an electric toothbrush in order to brush my teeth every day. But what I was worried about with bringing an electric toothbrush was charging it. There's not a lot of good options out there for USB-C or rechargeable toothbrushes without having to have all these bases and stuff. But with this one, it uses AA's, and I ended up picking up these USB-C rechargeable AA batteries. So when these died halfway through the trip, I was able to plug them in with my USB-C cables, charge them up, and they're good to go. I was also able to use the same batteries inside this set of hair clippers from Philips. It uses one AA battery, and I was using this in order to shave my head, my beard, and my neck. I didn't want to get a big, itchy neck beard, and I wanted to stay kind of clean and trim and looking good for my wife on our honeymoon. Another item from Matador, who makes the pouch, is these flat pack containers where you could put liquids or basically whatever you want. I put sunscreen in one, and then in the other one, I put powdered soap. You can bring basically as much powdered soap as you want in carry-on, and it doesn't take up all that precious space in your 1 gallon liquids and gels container. So I brought a lot of powdered soap, and it's what I use mostly in order to stay clean while we're on our trip. I also brought all my drugs for the trip, as well as earplugs, things like that. There's a lot more in this bag, but this is kind of the cool stuff and the main stuff that was super useful for me while we were on our trip. For footwear, I had 2 options. I probably used both of these equally. I had these Lems shoes that are very minimal, but super comfortable. I was able to stand and walk around in these for hours and hours, day after day. They really fit my foot well and have just enough kind of cushioning and support in order to get me through those days. But for some people, if your feet are on the weaker side, then you may want something with a little bit more cushion and a little bit more support. But the other option, especially for beach days that I had, were these Birkenstock sandals. I was a little bit worried because these are pretty expensive for sandals, but there's so many like knockoff versions in Southeast Asia that no one would steal these. I could leave these outside for days and no one would take them. So they're nice to have in that regard, but then we're also really durable because they're the name brand Birkenstock sandals. These also fit my foot really well, and I was able to kind of walk around on hot days with them and not get any blisters or foot issues. And yeah, between the 2 of these pieces of footwear, my feet were super happy, which is something that I think is pretty rare when you're traveling for as long as we did and doing as much walking as we did. That being said, this is what worked for my feet. Definitely take into account what your feet are like, what you find comfortable, and maybe just don't change things up right before a trip. I've been wearing these shoes for years, and I've been wearing Birkenstock sandals for a very long time as well. While credit card is prevalent in the big cities in Southeast Asia, once you get into some of the smaller towns, cash and coins are still king. So in order to carry that around, I had this little chicken tramper wallet. Basically, this was perfect. It was waterproof. It fit a lot of coins, a lot of cash, and fit nicely into the North Face crossbody bag that I brought with me. The coolest stuff I think that I brought with me, there's a lot of cool stuff so far. You guys let me know in the comments what you think is the coolest item that you might incorporate into your travels, whether that's for a weekend trip or a big long travel trip like Steph and I did. But for the electronics, I have this Anker battery bank / wall charger. So the little prongs stick out, you can shove this into a wall, and then you have 2 USB-C plugs and then 1 USB-A. So this is a 10,000 milliamp hour battery, very compact for that, as well as having really high powered charging on it. So this charges at up to 60 watts out of 1 plug, which is gonna be enough for basically any phone out there, as well as quite a few laptops. And for my cables, I brought 2 different ones. This is a silicone cable from Anker, USB-C to USB-C. I like their silicone cables because they're nice and bendy, they don't get tangled up, and they're just really nice cables. And then I also brought this little 3-in-1 cable from InCharge. It has a USB-C, but then also you take off one end and you have a lightning end that also doubles as a micro USB. So I was able to charge all of my devices between this and then the other cable there. I was really questioning what watch to bring on this trip. My Garmin Instinct 2X is a really expensive watch, so I was gonna bring kind of a cheaper Casio dive watch that was like 30 bucks. If it broke or got stolen, I wouldn't have carried, but I ended up bringing the Instinct 2X, and I'm really glad I did. The big reason why is because of the flashlight feature. So you can turn on a flashlight, a red light, or you can turn on a full bright regular light, and it's a lot brighter than you'd think, and it was really useful for kind of moving around hotel rooms while Steph was sleeping, or a couple times the power went out when we were walking down the street in the middle of these tiny towns, and I was able to turn on that flashlight and guide us to where we needed to go. It was really useful, a lot more useful than I thought it was gonna be, and frankly, a lot of the streets are quite dark as well, so it's nice to have that light without having to bring a big headlamp or a flashlight. But just in case, I did have a little backup. This is the Rovivon A5 flashlight. Sometimes I'd give this to Steph if she needed a light, or we'd bring this just in my pocket if we knew that we were gonna be going somewhere dark or that the power might be going out. A really fun item that we used only a couple times was a Google Chromecast. So this just plugs into basically any TV via HDMI, and you can log into your Netflix, play some movies, watch some TV. And there's a couple times where we just wanted a break in our hotel room. We were kind of getting a little homesick, so we'd watch a Christmas movie. We were traveling right before Christmas and just kind of cuddle and hang out. And it was nice to have. For how small this stuff is, it was nice to be able to just watch a little bit of TV and just kind of be in our normal routine for a couple hours. I also brought a pair of earbuds. These are the Anchor Space A40, I think. When it got really loud on the airplane, I put these in my ears with the noise canceling and then pumped some white noise in, and that just drowned out basically everything. It was also nice if I wanted to listen to a podcast or audiobook when we were at the beach. I was able to put these in and not disturb people around me. I didn't bring any down jackets or anything like that, but if you're traveling to a colder place and want an affordable but still high quality down jacket, go check out this video. I compare some of the top quality, budget-friendly down jackets out there from Uniqlo, Decathlon, Amazon, AliExpress, a lot of different options, and I rank them from the worst to the best. These are down jackets that compare to ones that cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars.